You're listening to Speaking Stellar Girl with Teri an interview series that inspires women to live their most stellar life. Teri is the co-founder of the Stellar Girl movement, and she is sitting down with women all over the world to hear about the key moments in their lives and how they live boldly, compassionately, and ultimately became a stellar girl.
Welcome to Speaking Stellar Girl. I'm your host, Teri and I am thrilled today to have Dr. Miranda Brawn joining me. Miranda wears many, many hats, that of a financial executive, an advisory board member, an international keynote speaker, a success coach, a self-help author, a media contributor, and the founder and president of the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Program. I could talk to you forever. We've been talking off camera for so long. I feel like you're one of my girlfriends living next door. I am so thrilled to have you with us. And so welcome to Speaking Stellar Girl.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I'm just so proud of your platform. It's a delight to be on your talk show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's wonderful that we connected. So let's talk about how we got to know each other before we launch into all things Dr. Miranda Brawn. So we got connected through another woman who was on Speaking Stellar Girl by the name of Veronica Mudra.
And definitely. And I met her a few years ago when we both gave our TED talk in Italy, and we've kept in touch. We're big fans of each other's work. Great purpose. I love the fact that she's doing White Ribbon to help women that are affected with domestic violence. So that's just a great platform. So, this is what this platform's all about. It's about women collaborating, supporting each other, inspiring each other. So yes, thanks, Veronica.
Yes. Well, you were born and raised in London. You definitely have an extended portfolio. You're also an attorney, a lawyer. And I have so many questions for you. I want to get into all things Miranda. So let's start off by talking about your diversity leadership program. So could you tell me a little bit more about that, please, your foundation?
Definitely. So it's the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Foundation. And that was launched nearly 5.5 years ago now, in January 2016. And the reason why I launched that, it was initially just going to be a scholarship. And I launched that because I could see there was a gap. There was a gap with regards to helping our next generation of leaders. I was also very active with regards to being a public speaker, but also working within the diversity and inclusion space in and out of the workplace. And so as an award-winning diversity leader within the UK, I thought, what else can I be doing? And, I'm from the corporate sector. As you know, my background is I'm a non-practicing barrister, lawyer, sales trader, and financial executive. And so there were lots of work being done within these industries once you enter the industry, but there wasn't that much work being done with regards to students while they're at school or university. And so when I was looking at the diversity pipeline, I noticed there was a gap, and I said, okay, the only way that we're going to be able to get more talent to come into these positions is to actually work with our next generation. And so that was really what was behind the next generation, or the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Foundation. And so we actually made UK history in October 2016, because we launched the UK's first diversity lecture of its kind. So the work that we do includes the diversity lecture, and the reason behind that was because there were lots of professionals and executives who, once they entered the workplace, they were not aware that there was a diversity issue. And all of a sudden, lots of people from diverse backgrounds were saying, oh, I'm the only one. I didn't realize that there was an issue here. And so part of the work that we do on the foundation is to actually educate our next generation, all the way from 4 years old, all the way up to,
That's wonderful.
Educating our next generation to let them know that we have a diversity issue, but also to help them with their education success and their career success. And so part of the work we do is also through scholarships. And we launched a very innovative scholarship. There was no one doing anything like this in the UK at the time. And the scholarship we launched was not just your traditional funding, but we also included work experience and mentoring, because we realized lots of students needed the work experience to get into the workplace, but then they also needed that mentor. They needed someone to give them the guidance to help them maybe with networking or improving their confidence. We also have a separate mentoring program, a reverse mentoring program. We've launched a few initiatives, so hopefully I'll get the opportunity to talk about that later on during our chat. But essentially, that is the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Foundation. We've managed to help thousands of young people across the board, across the globe, and help to give out thousands and thousands of pounds of scholarships. So I'm absolutely delighted that we're now entering our 6th year, and we've launched some very exciting initiatives, which include the Black Women on Boards, LGBT, disability, and ESG. And for anyone that doesn't know, yes, ESG stands for the environment, social, and governance. And so those are some of the exciting initiatives that we've launched this year.
That sounds wonderful. And that is what we are all about at Stellar Girl, assisting other women, championing them, making them better, and giving them the tools and obviously all the funding that you've given towards these scholarships have really helped and developed these women that would have not had that opportunity before. And that's extremely commendable, and that's amazing. I also want to talk about something else you've just recently launched for International Women's Day, and that is your 60-second coaching challenge. Do I have that correct?
It's the 60-second coach. And it's a platform that I launched because I've been doing coaching on the side for many, many years, and mentoring as well. And the 60-second coach complements the mentoring and the coaching platforms that I do in the sessions. That essentially is a 60-second video where I talk about something. Yeah, everyone's got 60 seconds.
Yes.
And that's what I thought. So I thought, look, I'll do bite-sized 60 seconds where it ends with an affirmation. And I know you and I were talking about affirmations and crystals. And so one of the things that a little snippet with regards to the 60-second video,
yes.
the first one that we did was about mindset, and it's about success coaching. And for me, and that's why the first video is on mindset, because it's all about getting the mind right. And so it's called Get Up. And you have to watch the 60-second video to figure out what does the actual get up mean. But it involves things like educating yourself, investing in yourself through prayer, and just not giving up and using failure as a lesson, but just getting the mind right, getting that growth mindset is so important with regards to anything that you're doing, with any purpose that you're doing. It's so important to get the mind right and to focus on your mental health as well. I think especially in these challenging times that we're currently facing.
Yes, 100%. And you mentioned the mindset, and that again brings us back to Stellar Girl. I believe that Veronica united us perfectly, because you're a 60-second coach and having that mindset every single day going forward. And we at Stellar Girl think you have to have that mindset in order to become what you want to become. And to do that, we need others to help us. We need to support each other. We need to champion each other. And I feel that from you. I mean, I can't wait to go check out and it's on Instagram. I can find your 60-second coach, correct?
Yeah, and it's on my YouTube. So what we can do, we can put all the links down below once this is live. So yes. I will send you the links. I'll get my assistant to send you the links, and then we will have that for everyone to see.
That is perfect. So I know that you also you're a founding associate of Wealthy Her in the UK, which is a network of leaders set up to deepen partnerships with women in business and their wealth programs. As I mentioned in my intro, you are a financial advisor as well. So can you touch on that about Wealthy Her? Again, great name.
Yeah. So I was asked to be an ambassador for that, and so it's really a new initiative, so I'm really just getting to grips with that. But it's essentially a platform to help women with their investment decisions, but not only from a financial perspective, but also from an educational perspective. And so I think when we're talking about investment, one of the things that I'm really using my platform and my social media channels is to promote investment, whether it's from an intellectual perspective and read and to get the knowledge so that you are better equipped to make more important decisions within your life, or making those investment decisions. And one of the things I recently put on social media is with regards to Tesla. In 2012, if you had bought a Tesla car for $77,000, today that would have been worth about $40,000. Whereas if you had invested that in Tesla stock, guess what? That stock would have been worth $7 million. So I'm a big fan of not just investing, and I know you and I have a love for, various material things, but I think it's also really important to focus on purpose, giving back, but also to focus on the long term and for the future and investments, and not just buying the latest car or buying the latest bag, but it's really important to think about that long term. And I think when you think about the population, 50% nearly of the world it is women, and there's so many statistics and research that shows that if you educate a woman, if you help women invest, that will go back into the family, that will go back into the community. So it's so important when we are thinking about investing, it's really important that we connect other women, we help. And I love to do that with my friends, when I mentor, when I coach, I give that advice because I think it's so important to make sure that you're set up so that you do. And one of the talks I give is having the option to retire early, and maybe not retire in its true sense, because I think, I personally,
the work never stops.
I can't just retire and do nothing. I just have to be doing things. So I think having the option to do what you want, I think having that freedom, that time freedom and that financial freedom is so important. How do you get there? Well, invest. I think it's so important as well. How I've been raised is for, to be independent and not to rely on a man for money or for anything, but to be independent and to know that if you want something, you can work for it and you can get it yourself. And I think that's so empowering, and that's definitely something that should be shared more. I think women of this generation get it, and they're definitely more go-getters. And of course, it's a different generation to when, maybe when my grandmother was alive, back in those times. But I think, there are some women a small percentage of women who probably still think marrying rich is the way to go. And I think it's really important that we home in on, you can be independent, you can be successful on your own, and own it and invest in yourself. And I think with the initiative you've mentioned, it's just about empowering yourself and empowering and collaborating with other women, and knowing that we are not competition, but we are there to help each other and we're there to collaborate. And that's why I love STELLARGIRL, because it's a perfect example of that.
And that's wonderful that you say that. And I do believe that women these days do need that financial guidance, and to get it from someone who has a background like you worked with JP Morgan, you worked at Goldman Sachs, like you have the background to be able to share all of your wealth and knowledge. And we mentioned about Clubhouse earlier, and I know that there's many women on Clubhouse and men from the UK talking about financial investing, wealth management, and what to do with the excess money. That tip you just gave about Tesla. I mean, why didn't I meet you in 2015? Seriously. Yes. Right? So you need to
still so many stocks now. And I think that's the message. And that's why I try to post messages on my Instagram and my social media anyway, just little tips and things. So, yes. Follow the Instagram, because there's always a few little tips there.
Everyone listening, go to Miranda Brawn's Instagram. Everything will be tagged on the promo and throughout this interview on YouTube, on podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify as well. So everything will be linked back to you. This is tremendous advice. Not only am I loving our conversation, you're also giving us a little bit of a free tip here and there. So that's fantastic. I love that you shared that. So let's bring it back a little bit about what you mentioned earlier about how we can better champion women. I know that you that is your platform. You empower, you champion, you coach other women. But how can we better champion each other?
I think it literally comes down to just being there and supporting. I think being a woman in the workplace can be challenging. And I think in the workplace, when I, for example, first started banking, And I was one of the first women of color on the trading floor when I started as a teenager. You know, I was 18, and I didn't realize at the time that I was one of the first women of color on the trading floor, working for, you know, one of the world's best banks. But for me, in the first half of my career, I found that it was very challenging working with women, because it was a very much a competitive vibe. Of course, there were some women that I came across who were very helpful and were sponsors and mentored me and were great support. But I think it's all very well having women give talks, have panel events, you know, promote themselves and say they're all about diversity. It's great. And yet in the workplace, they're not really behaving in that way to help and support women. So I think it's really important. And one of the things I do is actually support women within the workplace. You're not just talking about it, but you're following that up with action. And examples of things that I've done is whether it's mentoring or, you know, finding time to give someone some advice, or even if you know there's someone, you know, one example is there was a young lady who was very smart and she wanted to get into the front office on the trading floor, and she was having great difficulty. I had great difficulty getting into the trading floor, but I had mentors and sponsors, and after 10 years, I didn't give up. You know, by my late 20s, I finally got that position. And so for me, that's what I try to do. I try to be a sponsor. I try to open that door. And that's what I did with this young, you know, Black lady who was looking to get onto the trading floor. And this is like over 10 years ago now. And she is still working for this bank, and she's progressed up the ranks. And so for me, it's just doing things like that. It's helping other women get into that space, and just providing guidance and advice where you can. But I think with this competition, and there's another thing that I posted on social media, yes, I think it was yesterday, where it was, I think the quote was something along the lines of, you can't compete with me because I want you to win. That was the quote, and that is essentially it. I think lots of people,
that's fantastic,
inspired and want to do things, but then treat it like a competition. It's like, no, this is not a competition. And if anyone watches this and feels inspired and wants to go and do what I'm doing, great, because we want more of that.
Yes.
But I think that there are still, in this day and age, there are still a portion of women who see things as a competition. I think that needs to stop. But I think with women like us, platforms like the platforms that we're running, I think that will help to eliminate that, where we are coming together more collaboratively and getting the men involved. So I'm glad you mentioned the initiative that you will be launching soon. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, just in case it's a surprise. But I think it's so important to include men in conversations when we're talking about gender diversity. The same when we're talking about race diversity. We need to include non-people of color into the conversation. The same with disability, LGBT, you know, class, all of these different diversity strands. It's so important to bring everyone together and just collaboratively coming together so that we're not talking about these issues, and that we're just able to bring positive change into the world.
Yes, that is so wonderful, and so that, and I love that you mentioned, you know, the male side of it as well, because like you mentioned, you know, noting Veronica, her organization White Ribbon was founded in Canada by a man. So White Ribbon, White Ribbon was founded by a group of men that said we need to stop violence against women. And now it's women running the organization, but it was started by a group of men in Canada. And we do need to bring men into the conversation, because otherwise, how is it going to change if the girls just keep talking about it?
Do you know, and this is what I said in the TED Talk, funny enough, the TED Talk where I met Veronica in Italy. That's what I said like 2-3 years ago, where we need to bring men into the conversation. And so many times, as you know, I'm an international public speaker, and we're going to go talk about that. Schools, universities, but whenever I would go and talk on a gender diversity platform, I would be in a room and I would count the number of men, and in my talk I would say, okay, I'm in a room full of 200 women, I've counted 7 men. Like, we need the men to come into this space, because they're the ones in these positions who are making the management decisions. It's the same when we're talking about race. If we're in a room and we're talking about, you know, racism in the workplace, discrimination, and it's just a sea of people of color, they get it. It's so important to get white people, non-people of color in that room, so that they can understand and they can actually be a voice in the workplace and act upon that as well. And the same with men. But I've got to say, it's been white men who have helped me throughout my whole career, who have mentored me, who have sponsored me, who have hired me, who have promoted me. And so it's so important to use that voice. And even with the charity that I'm doing, I've got so many white male allies who are there behind me, helping, whether it's donating, sponsoring, spreading the word internally within their organization. So, there are a lot of great men doing great work. And so, of course, there are some men that aren't, and they're the ones we need to capture. Right. They're the ones that we need to bring on board. But there are a lot of great men out there who are doing great work. And so, it's really important to acknowledge that when we are on our journey to increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in and out of the workplace.
All of this sounds amazing. I just want to also go back to you mentioned something earlier about your TED Talks around the world and how much global travel that you have got to speak all over. You've mentioned South Africa. You've mentioned obviously all throughout the Europe. Have you been to the US yet? Speaking?
Yes, I have. I gave loads of talks, and especially when I was in finance, I had so many trips around the US, New York, California. In fact, I did a talk last year in August with Les Brown, Jack Canfield, Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles. And this was where I gave a talk on success, and it was at the Expo LA. And so, but that was virtual. Sadly, that event, due to COVID, and we had restrictions here in London, I wasn't able to travel out there. So it was all virtual. But no, I've done lots of talks within, across the US, but I've also done talks within Australia, the Caribbean, different parts, especially Dominica, but also Asia. I mean, a few weeks ago, I did a virtual talk for the first female university in Pakistan, which is called the Jannah University for Women. And that's incredible. A university focused on STEM subjects: science, technology, engineering, and maths. And so I've also been an ambassador to help women get into these STEM subjects. And we also have a scholarship. So we've got various scholarships on the foundation, which is various sectors. So we've got law, business and finance, we've got STEM, well, it's actually STEAM. So you get STEM with the A for arts, STEAM, politics. So there's a wide range. But yeah, I've spoken all over, even Paris, talking about artificial intelligence and the effect of that and diversity. So yes, I have given a lot of talks. I can't wait to get out there again once all the COVID restrictions and travels are a lot easier. But I'm doing so much work virtually, so I'm always open to giving virtual talks as well.
Well, we need to get the world open so that the world can see you again and hear more of what you've created in your life and all of your work and all of your sponsorships and programs. And I just think this is what you are doing, and how we connected was aligned. And I loved that Veronica brought us together, and how this is what Stellar Girl is all about. This is what we all need a little more of in our life, along with a little fun with all of our work. And so Stellar Girl is about fun. And I know that you mentioned something earlier that we need to rock the glamour. We need to have a little more fun. So what brings you joy? What do you do for fun?
For me, and this is so funny, because before the COVID lockdown, I hardly watched TV, hardly went to the cinema. And when people would talk about the latest film, or even something on the TV, it was like a different language. I didn't know what they were talking about. Clearly, if it was like a major film, I would know what they were talking about. But for me, I've actually got into Netflix. And so I never thought I'd hear myself saying that, but I have changed a lot during lockdown. And I think everyone probably has to a certain extent. And so the person I was entering, a year ago versus who I am now, I'm definitely more, I've got a healthy work-life balance now, definitely. And for me, what brings me joy is, I've always been one to laugh a lot. I think it's so important, no matter what you're going through. I think if you can laugh your way through it, then you're halfway there. But for me, it's good food. It's, being in good company and, putting a good movie on, or a good documentary, or reading a good book, or, just prayer. And I know we spoke about this, but I'm a big fan of prayer, meditation, going for walks. What brings me joy is really embracing the simple things in life. And I think everything that I go through, especially if it's something negative, I always try to think, what is the lesson out of this? Or what positive can I take out of this? And this all comes back to your mindset. And so for me, we've all, COVID-19 and this lockdown, it's affected everyone in the world one way or another. And so for me, it's really been, how can I turn this into a positive? And it's really been finding the beauty in the simple things. Even just watching something on TV, things that bring me joy is kindness, and being able to help someone.
Yes.
Or, when I mentor someone and someone is struggling and they've been trying to find a job or get to the next level of their career. And one of the things I do with my coaching and mentoring, and it varies from different levels. So not only do I mentor and coach, young students who are entering their first step into their career, whether it's launching their business or entering the corporate world or just finding a job, but I'm also helping women get into the boardroom or get into their first management position, or get their first paid board role in a global organization. And when you see women and men, people from all different backgrounds, achieve that, and you see how happy it makes them after they've been struggling for so many years, and then you give them a few coaching, I might introduce them to a few people as well from my network, and when you see them achieve their level of success, that brings me true joy. It really makes me happy. And for me, I just want, this is going to sound so corny.
No, don't.
So corny, but my whole purpose, my life purpose, is to try and just, while we're here, and this is something that we were talking about when we were, catching up for half an hour before we started this recording. One of the things I was saying to you is that we all have a life purpose. We're all here for a reason. And if someone watching this does not know what their life purpose is, then they need to find it. And if they want to contact me and I can help them find it, that's great. But I think this is all about finding what is your life purpose, and it should be to help make a positive impact on this world in one way or another. And finding that life purpose will bring you natural joy. It will bring you happiness. And there's a lot of evil in the world at the moment, and I'm here with my work to try and eliminate that, and to bring more peace and more happiness and more joy, not just for myself, but for others as well. And I think that that's so important, that we think about others. We think about, how can I help someone else who might be suffering, who might be struggling? And I think that's the definition of a stellar girl as well. It's not just about yourself and how can I help me, but how can I help others? And I think that's what brings me true joy on a genuine level.
I love that answer. I don't think anyone could have said it better. That's exactly what we're all here at Stellar Girl, then that's what it's about. And you embody everything that a Stellar Girl is. You are the mindset that champions other women. You do that in your work, in your personal life. I felt that through the screen today. I've been inspired by you, and I hope that all of our listeners will also, be inspired and aspire to be better, kinder, and having that human connection back, whether it's through the screen. I know that's what we have these days, so I'll take it over nothing at all. But having that human connection, having that kindness, which you have shown to me today.
Oh, thank you.
And it's been so beautiful talking to you, Miranda. We need to do a part 2. So I think we should do, like, in a month, when, things are rolling with your 60-second coach and your videos are all up, and we can bring some of the other girls that you've mentored on and do more of like a panel and have them share their story. Someone who isn't, as world well renowned as you are, being able to share their story as well.
I think that would be wonderful. That's a great idea.
Well,
let's do it.
Let's absolutely do that. Well, thank you for coming on today. I so appreciate you and all that you stand for. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell icon to be notified of new episodes. To learn more about the Stellar Girl movement, please visit us at stellargirl.com.